I guess just your thoughts first off on Moses getting newcomer of the year and being the first team, and then JD. After you talk about Moses, but JD getting sixth man.
Yeah, no, I think it's an awesome accomplishment for Moses. To be recognized by the coaches is phenomenal. Same thing with JD. I mean, takes a special player to be willing to come off the bench, never complain, be able to come in and play the off guard or the point guard. He's made great strides. JD has as a point guard and understanding shot selection and defending. And then with Moses, I mean, there's just not often that you have a freshman come in, start from day one, be a go-to player, be a guy that you rely on to make baskets, a guy that you rely on to get defensive stops, a player that you rely on to guard every night. Moses has improved putting the ball on the deck, beating people off, isolation situations. He's always been a great spot up shooter, but I think he's really improved in some other areas as well. So much deserved.
Yeah, and Moses only had 4 turnovers the last 4 games. I think he's only got 38 for the season or something like that. What about the way he takes care of the ball, especially of late?
Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job because he doesn't force things. He lets the game come to him. He's got an incredibly high basketball IQ. So it's not really a surprise. And he just does a great job with ball security. And that's also why he's, got the ball in his hands a lot in late game situations as a decision maker and a shot maker. And he's also made, especially of late, I mean, he's had a couple great no-look passes, so he's made some great, extra passes without turning the ball over.
I know earlier in the year, you talked a lot about JD's got to have better shot selection. He needs to share the ball more. He needs to improve his defense. And he seems like he's really come a long way in all those areas and is playing his best ball of late. What have you thought about how he's taken to coaching, I guess, and I guess he's obviously doing what you want him to do,
No, he's been incredible just sitting down and going through film with people on the coaching staff. And, I text him all the time after games and he's just receptive. He's like a sponge. He wants to get better. This is new to him. He's been a scorer his whole life. He just kind of out there freelancing a lot, and he's, now playing much more in a team system and a team environment. And I think that, his future is even going to grow more and more. Not just as a guard, not just as an off guard, but also as a point guard. His growth on both sides of the ball has I don't know if I can remember a player in such a short time frame growing his game like JD has, because he's, he started off, with a lot of ceiling in a lot of areas, like decision-making, shot selection, when to pass, all those type of things. And he's done a great job of getting better on a daily basis.
Yeah. I got a couple more. I'll give it back to Mike if time allows. Thank you.
Nate Allen.
Eric, just as far as Georgia and Missouri, just what do you look for from either one of them as far as you're playing? What would be kind of the keys to both games?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, Nate, this is like a self-scouting week, especially yesterday and today. It's a get better week. How do we get better? We're trying to balance marrying our offense and our defense right now at this juncture of the season, and understanding the two different philosophies that Georgia and Missouri have. But I think it's a lot of, rewiring the switchboard right now, because we don't really know who we're playing. So how do we, get ready for both teams, and also kind of worry about ourselves? So I think that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we're not focused on one team. We took the top 3 players, from each team yesterday. We're looking at the top 3 sets from both teams, the top 2 baseline out of bounds plays. and then we're trying to mix in how we would look to attack offensively. You know, I mean, interesting enough, it's like my son Michael said the other day, it's like my mind's like a slot machine, because right now I'm just, you know, my wheels are spinning all these different ways with both teams, and I got to just try to stay a little bit, you know, focused on, you know, not trying to get too much in with both teams. I mean, you know, how do we just kind of worry about, you know, our own team right now until we're sure who we play.
Thank you.
Phil Elson. None? Okay. Hutch.
Yeah, Coach, kind of along those lines, you know, with Missouri, you played them twice, and, you know, once without Justin for you and once without Tillman for them. And Georgia was so long ago. They seem to be playing better of late. So can you really use much from those scouting reports and preparations preparing for them previously, whenever you prepare for them this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Hutch, that, yeah, I mean, we've got to go back through the, you know, because there's still a lot of the personnel that is the same, but you're right, the identity of two very important, you know, players on each team. Obviously, Tillman, you know, is such a focal point for Missouri, and it was a very tough matchup for us in game one. And certainly, you know, Justin makes us a completely different basketball team as well. And, you know, Georgia, you know, they have a freshman that's really played well, that did not play against us. So they have a changing of personnel as well. So, but I think you still got to go back and look at, you know, look at your game, or your games, you know, against Missouri, the 2 and the 1 against Georgia. And then you've got to also look at like their last 5 games and kind of try to come up with some trends and philosophical things that you want to give your team. But we don't want to overload them either as we're getting ready to, you know, not knowing who we exactly play.
Teresa Walker. Teresa. You're muted, Teresa.
Sorry about that, guys. It's Zoom world today. Coach, you come into this tournament, you know, doing so well in league play. How do you prepare for this tournament? Do you try to make a clean break of it to make sure that there's not maybe a little bit too much confidence, or you just really like the way your team's been playing in the SEC?
Well, Teresa, I mean, we like how we're playing, obviously, but also we understand that each game has its own identity, has its own theme. You know, I mean, we want more with this team. You know, we want more time with them. We want more games. We want more of everything. And the only way really from here on out, you know, with the SEC tournament, it's one game and done. And then you move to the next tournament, and it's the same thing. So, you know, one of our themes is how do we come up with more? You know, am I worried about overconfidence? No. You know, that's our job behind closed doors. Probably not going to be overconfident anyhow with the way the awards went today, because we have some freshmen that I don't know how they were overlooked, but they were. Justin Smith has been as important to our team as any player is to any team. Jalen Tate defensively. Vanover's one of the best shot blockers. I mean, we were left off the all defensive team. I think we're a pretty good defensive team. So I think they're, you know, I mean, I don't see why you'd be overconfident, especially with how today went with some of the individual player awards. And Mike Kaywood, you can remotely mute me at any point as well.
Just to quickly follow, the best way to answer the lack of awards and recognition to just go win the tournament title?
No, I think we've already answered that through a whole league play. I don't think it's going to really matter what we do. The votes are already in, and I'm just shocked. You know, like I love to watch post-game press conferences, and I mean, everybody after every game, everybody talks about this guy's a pro on our team and this guy's Gary Payton defense. Well, where are their votes? Because I hear all the press things, and you know, last year everybody said Isaiah Joe was a pro, and I could be wrong, but I don't think he was voted to either team either. So, you know, I'm a little confused on that, but you know, again, maybe I'm mishearing some of the postseason or post-game quotes by some of the opposing coaches after games.
Scotty,
Yeah, Coach, kind of along those same lines, is not landing on the all SEC teams going to be fuel for a guy like Justin, or is he the kind of guy that's just going to let this thing kind of roll off of him?
Yeah, I think Justin's so mature, and I just knowing him as well as I don't think it affects him at all, to be honest. And, you know, thankfully the USA Today recognized him. You know, those guys must really study with the USA Today, you know, to recognize him. So, but I don't think our guys are going to, you know, I'm sure today it'll, you know, whatever. And then I think that the bottom line is it's a team sport, and it's how do you go win the next game? That's the thing that's most important.
And I'm wondering if you might be able to provide a glimpse into maybe Devo's personality, maybe some of the things that he does, you know, on or off the floor to kind of keep the mood light.
I mean, for his personality, first of all, Scotty is insanely positive. He's our energizer. I mean, I'm sure you know, everybody on this call's got Twitter. I mean, he shoots late at night, and I can promise you, because I text early in the morning, and if I text 3 guys at 6 in the morning, 2 of the 3 hit me back at, you know, 9 or 10 in the morning. If I text Devo at 5:30 in the morning, he texts back at 5:31. Now, I don't know, maybe he's got his volume up on his phone to you know, to alert him, but I don't think so. I think I don't know when he sleeps. I mean, the kid is full of energy. He's like a bright light when he walks in the gym, when he walks into our team meetings on the road. I love being around him. His teammates love being around him. And then it's a reflection of how he plays. I mean, he's the guy that, you know, if we're, you know, kind of walking in mud or we're leaking oil, I mean, he's kind of the guy that can help solve those problems for us just with his energy and his effort.
Curtis,
Hey, Coach, obviously ended the season on such a remarkable run, but at this time of year, you hear people talk about teams that are built to win in March, and your team's been mentioned in that category as of late. What do you think stands out about this group that makes them a team that's dangerous in postseason play?
Well, I think, you know, we played really well during a month when let's face the facts, you know, when this, you know, streak started, our backs were against the wall. You know, it wasn't too long ago where we were just fighting for an NCAA tournament berth. You know, after we lost to Alabama, you know, we were probably right in that range of, I don't know, first 4 in, first 4 out. And we understood that as a group, that we had set some preseason goals, and those were in jeopardy if we didn't start playing better basketball and playing with a little bit more sense of urgency. And we turned the corner with our play and with our confidence as well. But it's a one in, you know, it's, I've mentioned, at least you got to go win the next game in front of you. You know, the good thing is, like, we know we're in the NCAA tournament. Sure, we want to try to get as good a seed as we can, because that's only logical. But we also, you know, we've got to understand too that, you know, sometimes shots don't fall, and sometimes they do fall. And, you know, I mean, for instance, the other day against Texas A&M, I mean, their shots were falling. I mean, we've gone back and watched video. Like, I mean, they made some tough shots that they got some momentum going, and we defended some of the shots in the second half really well. And sometimes you run into that. And that's why you see upsets every year, year after year after year after year after year. And we just want to continue playing excellent team basketball where we're sharing the ball and we're defending with great energy. That's all that I think we can really control.
Kevin, preseason, couple of the points you talked about as being areas of concern were lack of lateral mobility, but also who's going to be the go-to guy. With the kind of success you've had at the end of the season, it seems like multiple players have proven to be go-to guys, whether it's offense or on defense, getting a stop. As you move in the postseason, win or go home, are you comfortable with your go-to guys? And can you talk a little bit about that, how that's emerged over the course of the season?
Yeah, Kevin, I think that, we've had so many different leading scorers, and I think it's because we've done a really good job of sharing the basketball. And I think when you share the basketball, that means you respect the defense. So, if somebody's over helping on one player, then you turn one shot into a better shot for a teammate, and you don't force shots. I mean, there's no secret really that Moses is our go-to player, but that doesn't mean your go-to player necessarily has to take shots. It might be some of the passes that have been made. You mentioned, mobility. I think our guys have gotten better defensively, and a lot of that too, Kevin, our defensive, mobility laterally has really improved with Devo Davis. His lateral foot speed, his lateral quickness, and his ability to get to loose balls and rebounds for his area has really helped us. So, and then I think that JD has stepped up, from a defensive standpoint from where he was early in the year. We didn't feel like he was getting low enough defensively. And I think as of late, he's bending his knees more, as simple as that sounds. And he's got way more active hands. So I think, kind of that two-part question, Kevin, of the defensive mobility as well as like a go-to player. With your go-to player, I really think like you want the ball to have eyes and find the open guy. And then you got to trust that open guy, because some nights, we posted Jalen Williams up against Alabama when we needed baskets, and we've gone to Moses off single double screens, and JD Notae's been in isolation situations. We've had games where we've posted Justin Smith, and we've had games where we're struggling and Devo Davis breaks off plays with his with his bounce game, and Desi played so well at South Carolina knocking threes. So I think there's just the great thing about this team is we're not one dimensional on either side of the basketball.
Follow-up question for you. You've talked a lot at different times about identity of basketball teams, but it seems like with your game planning and figuring out personnel matchups game to game, you're able to shapeshift who you guys are. So when you're in postseason play, and you talked about the hurdles of trying to who are you team? You're better defensively, and you can actually team style of play is.
Well, I think, Kevin, that just because of how we do practices and there's just kind of these two different worlds of coaching. There's the thought process of this is who we are, this is how we play every night. We don't spend a lot of time on the opposing team. We only spend time. That's not who we are. We're more, and I've said it before, and I don't mean to continue to. But we're more under the Patriots line of thinking with New England, where you try to game plan for that particular game. And then I also do think that maybe a little bit different than traditional college basketball, or maybe if coaches came from high school and then worked their way up to the college ranks. The NBA is just different. The background that I've been surrounded watching my dad and then spending, like, it's all about mismatches and trying to find a mismatch. And you see it in football. Some teams, you try to get a taller wide receiver to go against a smaller defensive back or smaller cornerback. And so for us, that's why some nights we post up Justin Smith. And then that's some nights where we see a hole, and maybe Jalen Williams is the guy down low, or we might, want to ISO JD Notae because of the matchup that he has. So I think that we do have a lot of different identities to play with. And I do think that does make us a little bit more difficult to scout, but I'm also smart enough to know that from here on out, it's kind of a make or miss game. And if you miss and the other team's making, you get eliminated. But I do think, our guys are used to making halftime adjustments. Our players are, where we can come in and completely change a pick and roll coverage if we need be. And they're not shell shocked by drastic changes from game to game, or even, maybe even at halftime sometimes.
Congratulations on a great season. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you.
Randy?
Eric, by the way, for what it's worth, had Devo on this past summer. I asked him what he wanted to do in college. He wanted to major in zoology. He wants to own a zoo after his playing days are over. So, for what it's worth. You kind of touched on this earlier.
By the way, Randy, I knew that. We do a little thing called Voices and Choices at all of our road team meals, and everybody gets up. And one of the questions a few weeks ago, we did ask, what do you want to do when you're done playing? And Devo brought up that he'd like to own a zoo. I asked him what his favorite animal was. He brought up a whale. I asked him if he had ever seen a whale. Being from Little Rock, he had not. I proceeded to tell him about when I was younger, my mother used to take me whale watching in the Pacific Ocean at least once a summer from a very young age. So I let him know about my whale watching experience. So true team bonding.
You're one up on him then. You talked a little bit about this, but I'm sure between the game that concluded against South Carolina until you play, you're going to mix in some self-scouting upon yourself. If you've had a chance to do that, what areas do you see that you need to work on, and what areas do you see that you need to enhance upon?
That's a great question, Randy. And I feel like I'm overly upfront and honest with you guys, but that's one I'd like to withhold, because I don't know who might watch this thing later on. So I don't want Coach Crean or Coach Martin to watch it and for them to know what we think our holes are. We got some holes, I can tell you that. But I'll probably just keep those between me and the guys.
Well, you can email them to me then if that's okay.
I'll come on your radio show again and tell you the holes.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
Jason Carroll.
Coach, you mentioned backs against the walls with that 2-4 start. I wonder what the mentality was like with you and the rest of the coaches at that point to get the team to change the direction it was going. And with that, give you a chance to say why you should have been coach of the year with that 11 straight conference wins down the stretch to get your team to where you are now. Do you think you may have been overlooked with what you guys did the last month of the season?
No, I mean, the only coach of the year award that I'm really pissed off about is when I lost out to Greg Popovich, because there was a large bonus, but a large bonus. So that one, Jason, I'm mad about. It still irks at me because a lot of money was left on the table, man. This one, not so much. I'm more worried about our player awards than I'm 57. I don't really need them, but that NBA one a few years ago when I was a lot younger, I could have made some good investments with that money. And then the other one that irked me was Nick Nurse. Because I actually had a bet with 4 or 5 different NBA GMs before the G League season started that I was going to win G League Coach of the Year. Some of the guys that are buddies of mine or I worked with, and I lost out to Nick. I don't know how those two, not this one, but those two really pissed me off, Jason. This one, none. The other question about our backs being against the wall. I think I've told you guys, like, we had a really brutal practice after the LSU game. We pride ourselves on being a team that really, really plays hard. And it's not going to happen every night. When you play 27 games or you play 30, games. And I kind of, in the NBA, you probably have, 5 to 8 of those a year where you don't have your legs, the other team's rolling, you're struggling and you just stink. And that happens over 82 games. And I kind of found, in the 4 years that I was at Nevada, that usually 2 times a year in college, you just stink. The other team's rolling, you're tired, your schedule is such that, it's, you're just not going to win. And ours happen to be back to back this year. And your team can go two ways. It really can. Like, I'm not sure the whole staff thought that we should bring out weighted vests and close out with bricks in our hands. I wanted to go with an overload principle because I've seen my dad do it. But there was a risk too, that the guys, we have so many new faces. It wasn't risky when I did that at Nevada after, 3 or 4 years, because we all knew each other inside and out. But I think at that point, the team really decided to fully buy in. And there was nobody with half a foot out. I mean, it was all in at that point. Or it would have just been miserable for everybody if we would have kept going down that road, because practices weren't going to get easier. But I just think that the guys really, we believed in them too. Sometimes when you have that type of practice and you're telling them throughout a grueling practice, hey, the reason we're doing this, Scott, we believe in you. We expected more. We expected to go to Baton Rouge and play well. We expected to go to Tuscaloosa. It's not okay to play the way we have too much talent in this room. We have all league guys. We got to play better. And, I just thought that they, turned the corner as a group from a confidence standpoint as well.
Trey Shapp.
Coach, obviously going to Nashville, it's not going to be a full arena. And you were able to, kind of create some energy there in Bud Walton and it not being full. How do you create some energy in Nashville when it's not going to be a full arena? And you will have some fans there, but there won't be, the typical SEC tournament crowd.
I think, Trey, I think we're pretty used to it now. I mean, the one game that was just weird to me was when we walked out at Auburn, the first SEC game. It was surreal. I remember turning around to my son, Michael, and said, this is, just different, like something I'd never experienced in college. It was like a G League game in a city that maybe didn't draw. But I think now we're all used to it. I really do, Trey. One of the things is, like when we get to Nashville and we get to the NCAA tournament, like we can't win a game in the first 10 minutes. We can't win a game in the first 10 minutes of the second half. You're going to have to win games now in the last 2 minutes of the game a lot of times, because there's going to be a lot of close games from here on out. And I don't think you can, rely on external motivation with the crowd, because it's just not going to be there. It's going to be, it's going to be different environment, not just in Nashville, but also in the NCAA tournament. Because obviously those crowds, at least the ones I've been a part of, have been, incredible buildings full of energy and anticipation, and you could cut it with a knife in the air 2 hours before tip off. And that's not the type of environments that we're going to be playing in the middle of a pandemic.